What? Excellent. One of these days, our videos will start with, are we live? Is it working? We will figure this out at some point. Oh, and I just got a notification from YouTube that we're live. So yes, we are live. Let's start the event in Discord then. Uh, Start this. I'm going to start talking and talking in
Perfect.
Discord. Sorry about that. I started the event, but in Discord, but because the event is says that we're in chat, it threw me into chat. So, okay. I think,
Oh, I see. And yeah, it's
yeah.
even green in Discord.
Yes, yes, I was going to say. So I don't think I'm in the chat channel anymore.
No, you're
Um,
not, I think.
because I was just in the middle of saying, one of these weeks, this will start smoothly.
I didn't
Welcome in case
even know.
anyone is watching our tomfoolery as we figure all this out. Um, yeah, another talking and docking. So uh, maybe Hideo, if you don't mind, I think we can put a topic for the stage as opposed so that people know in Discord here what's going on, that this is talking and docking, not
Can
the
you
chat.
put.
Hideo, if you don't mind maybe looking.
I'm trying to look now, but I wonder if you can only put a description like that when you have an event running. Oh, the echo is back?
Only a tiny, only a tiny bit. I am so glad we decided to stream today so everyone can see how ridiculous all this is. Um, I am going to, oh, I am editing the Talking and Docking event to say the stage channel, and I'll see what this does. I have saved event. Oh, cannot update it probably because it's going on in person. I am then going to let me end this event. So, okay, I am just going to end the talking and docking event so that the chat goes all normal. Okay. All right. So the official Discord event has been ended so that the chat channel is not moving things. We can, yeah, shortest talking and docking ever. We can change that for next week if we're going to start using the stage. And so we'll have it for the stage. All right. That's enough shenanigans. This is what it's like maintaining an open source project. You never know what's going to happen. But welcome if anyone's watching. Welcome to people here in the audience. And we have already had a particular request for something to get started with. So, yeah, Hideo, you can let me know if you don't want to talk, you can let me know in chat. If we do you still want to control the screen? Is that easiest from your end? So if we are going to look at, for example, discussion 12-102,
Yeah, I will open
would
it on my
you
screen.
like to call that link up?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can you
so
link?
I'll paste the link in the
Yeah.
chat here. And I will um, also paste the link into YouTube. So we have it there, and we can update the description after the fact with the PRs that we covered. Okay, so this 1 hour ago, this I know was a conversation from a support thread. So one of the really cool things about Astro, and I'm sure a lot of open source projects work this way, is we get a lot of people come into the Discord with support questions. We have a super active support patrol. And just so many helpful people in the Discord, so that when people come in with questions, um, obviously, we like them to get help. We like them to figure out what's blocking them, move ahead on their project. But Astro Docs and our support team do work pretty closely together, so that when a problem comes up and we can identify that there's a weakness in the documentation, either there could be a typo, there could be something actually wrong, there could be something missing, there could be something less helpful. Often what can happen is if a feature changes, it's pretty easy to know, okay, now we need documents for this feature. Or if it's a new feature, if the feature's changed, okay, we need to update this feature's own documents. But sometimes that feature may be referenced throughout docs. There may be code snippets for on a different page that rely on um, just an example of using a feature. And sometimes there may be stuff throughout the rest of docs that doesn't get updated at the same time as other feature docs. So certainly a new feature, a change to a feature always can be kind of disruptive. It can change things that used to work, maybe even related to other features, if people are using them in conjunction. So I think that is where this new discussion filed, 12102, came from. It came from a support discussion in Discord, and someone reported that now the use of importing SVGs works a little differently since some of our changes to the SVG components. We have the ability to import SVG components, SVGs, and use them as Astro components. But I think what that did was change it a little bit under the hood if you're going to import and use SVGs not as components. Oh, and we've got Lou in the chat saying he's happy to explain the issue some more. I know Lou was having some power issues at his house, so I didn't want to ask. But yeah, if you are available, Lou, then let me see. Can I invite you to speak here? Or can you ask to speak and then we can approve you? I'm not sure how to get Lou, how do we get you on the stage here?
It you should be invited now. You should just have to accept, I guess, somewhere in chat, maybe? Yeah, take your time.
I think we're just waiting. Yeah, I think we're just waiting for Lou to be able to get here because Lou was involved in this discussion. And I think Lou was the one that said, please make a GitHub discussion for docs so we can look at updating our documentation. I do know one thing about using images in Astro in particular. It does depend if you're using the image or picture components, any of our built-in components. Um, it's convenient that you import the image itself in your Astro front matter, and then you reference the name that you use to import the image. If you are using just JSX or HTML image tag, if you're using just the HTML tag, then when you import that image, you're importing an object, and the SRC is a property of that object. And so I know it can be a little confusing with images that way. And so when I see this, it looks like something similar now is happening now that we've added the ability to import SVGs and use them as components. This to me looks suspiciously like it's mirroring how our image imports work and whether or not you're importing an image to use it um, in the image or picture component versus just with an HTML tag. All right, we are waiting for Lou to get up here. But again, so this process is great for us. So this means that support conversations happen, and then our dedicated support patrol people recognize that this either deviates from or is missing entirely from documentation. So they ask the person if they would mind filing a GitHub discussion. And this is what we do in Docs is we use discussions to analyze, to figure out what needs to happen. We don't go straight to issues because ideally issues are when we've acknowledged that something is a problem. We know what the problem is. So we've discussed it a little bit to really figure out what the problem is. And we have a bit of an idea of how to solve it. Because the best case situation for us is if we can, if by the time something ends up as an issue, we can label it as help wanted, maybe even good first issue because the path forward is so clear. That is always the best case scenario. We like by the time things are issues, I think if you look at our issues in general, we have so many labeled help wanted and a fair number labeled good first issues because the solution is known. And that just makes it easy for anyone to be able to hop into Astro Docs issues, look at something, know that something is a problem that we've already identified. Yes, we'd love a fix for it. Anybody can jump in, run with it. And here's even how we think it should be handled. So you can feel super confident that you know what you want going on here. Armand is saying, unable to see the stream. I'm still on the waiting stage to start screen. I wonder if Discord is messing a bit up today. I can see Heidio's stream.
So we have my
I know
Discord
Lou's
echo.
trying.
Lou cannot join the stage
Oh,
to
we got.
speak. Armand cannot see anything.
This is a great day. Who decided? Who decided we should stream? Because we always regret when we don't. Yes, that was me.
But no, that's Discord. Yeah. That's Discord problem. Uh,
Armand, I guess
oh, I have
you
a
could
but.
try leaving and joining again. You can see Heidio streaming, but this is disabled. What is disabled?
So I have a button to start the stage, but when I'm streaming, I cannot interact with it for whatever reason. And I think that the button where you can pick, you can set a topic for the stage too, but I cannot click on it for whatever reason. It's below the audience people. I don't know if Jan can see it and
I'm
maybe
looking
say.
too. I I do see an option to start the stage. Yes, I see an option to start the stage. So does this mean that maybe only us core people are seeing Heidio's screen?
I I think Lou is saying it. I think
That's
starting this. Oh, I don't know.
okay. So let me try. I'm going to start the stage. I am not going to ping people because this does not seem like a day. What happens when I go start the stage? I am going to uncheck, let everyone know the stage is starting, and put and see if this helps. Maybe this is part of our issue here. Okay, I have now apparently started the stage. Okay, I guess one of us needed to start the stage, even though we're all here and we're all talking. Oh my goodness.
That's so weird. And why was Lou
It
able
is.
to see and Armand was not? One last invite
Okay.
for Lou. I can do that.
Oh
Yeah,
my
an
god,
interesting.
it's working.
Woo! Part of the problem might have been not having started the stage because I was not able to invite Lou to speak. Like when
I was
until
able
now,
to
until I
invite,
started the stage.
but I think you could
No.
not join or something.
The issue was that my mobile Discord has just been glitched since the latest update. It's been weird. Like I could see getting invited via a phone notification, but I couldn't see the invite on Discord. I couldn't accept it.
Okay,
Discord
so
is great
talking and
sometimes.
talking officially starts now. Officially now. All right, Lou. So we have, and it should be up on Heidio's screen. We've got issue 12102. Lou, why don't you give us the backstory? Tell us what's going on here.
All right. So basically, at approximately 11:42, I'm kidding. We've had a support thread where basically someone came in and they have been using an older version of Astro prior to 5.7.0, and they were. I mean, to be fair, I've never seen this be done, but this could be something people maybe do on a like regular basis. They were using an import of an SVG file using the import syntax, so vite imports, to set it as their fav icon, the icon you see on the browser tab when you go to a website. And basically, when they upgraded to the latest Astro version, this obviously broke because now, well, since 5.7, importing an SVG is no longer similar to importing an image. You now import it as an SVG component. So you can, use it like an Astro component in your code and not have to worry about, using extra dependencies like Astro icon. And then after chatting around a bit, and this is something I only learned today as well, we've had a core maintainer, Blue, actually come in and help with the issue. Basically, you now need to, instead of like the example they provided on the page, now I would pull this up on my own screen, but my browser is updating. There you go. Now, instead of just putting the icon itself into the href, you have to use icon.source. And the issue is that this is not documented anywhere, or rather, very barely documented. So, for example, if you head to the docs for using images, images in source, there is a singular offhand mention of having to use, the imported image object.src for for using it not with the Astro Assets image component, but with a normal HTML image. The issue is that is not mentioned anywhere else in the docs to my knowledge. So, if you had this exact use case where you basically import the fav icon from your assets folder, but then instead, I think it's under... Yeah, I mean, basically, if you head to the SVG components thing, there's no mention of getting the URL for the asset if you import it anywhere, because it just shows how you can use the SVG like a component, but there's no mention of being able to get the link to the asset. And that's true for all assets documentation, I think. At least I haven't seen it.
So the SVG components is a newer feature that was added. So it was an experimental feature first, then so it had its own page. Then when it became official, we added it as a section in docs. And so it's important here, this is SVG components. So the only time we actually, as Lou is saying now, the only time we specifically mention SVG is this actual component usage. So, Lou, am I correct in what I was thinking before that this is very much just like the other image imports of any file type, that if you're going to use them in a built-in component like the image or picture component, or if you use it directly as an SVG component, then your import is cool, like it's all set to go. If you check the image, if you go to the image components documentation.
So let me go to that.
Just
I
for
found another reference where we mentioned that in the same page.
Yeah. So yes, the image and picture components use the named import directly as the source, while
But
the image tag itself uses the source object property of the import itself. So
yeah.
instead of just using source is rocket, now you have to use source is rocket.src. So am I correct that basically what's happening is the comparable thing, except that we never previously documented SVG as anything out of the ordinary. Then when we had this feature for SVG components, we added SVG component documentation, but now there's nothing on this page about SVGs that are not intended to be used as components. Is that what we got going on?
Yes.
Or is there,
So if you
okay.
in the images in .astro files section, if you scroll down a bit, and I think this is the only mention of this in the docs. There's a code example of source pages blog myimages.astro, where it shows how you can use the image component from Astro Assets, or how you can use a normal HTML image. And for the source, you set local bird image.src. As far as I know, this is the only mention in all of docs that this is a thing you can do to get the asset URL of the imported asset. And what's cool is that this is actually also true for SVG components. So if you import an SVG, instead of just using it as a component, you can also just call, my imported svg.src and get the asset URL with the asset hash. The reason the person was actually trying to do this is because they are caching these images in a certain way using a CDN. And for images in their public folder, their provider wouldn't cache them because reasons.
I wonder, did that always work? Did SVGs work that way before we had the you can import an SVG as a component feature?
I
Like would
think so,
this,
yes. I think the source property has always been there.
yeah, so that's what I was saying. Like all our examples here, I believe, use JPEG, but I think any of your assets that way, I think this is just how they worked. So it seems to me what happened was when we added the feature about SVG components, then there's no obvious or intuitive notion that if you don't want to use that SVG as a component, that you should just do it the same way that you would import an image normally in the past. So am I correct? That seems to be what we're missing documentation for, is like that's how it worked, but we never really showed it. It never was an issue. But now, Hideo, try searching using the Algolia search widget, search for SVG. And do we have any hits that other than taking people mostly to this new feature about importing SVGs as components?
Mm,
Because I'm wondering if people search for SVGs. So clearly the top hits are going to be exactly where we were. But yeah, so there might not even be much.
we have an example here.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
Okay, so on our imports reference page, when we talk about all the supported assets you can use, yeah.
That's perfect. I think that's exactly what I was missing. The issue is that is not linked to, I think, because I was trying to find this and I just couldn't because the name other assets is just not not what I'd be searching for.
Right,
So
right.
I think there is some issue here, though, because image reference is not equal to that. I think I may be wrong, but I wonder if all of this predates any image support in Astro.
It
Because
might.
if I remember correctly, before we had the image in Astro, basically it was handled by Vite. So when you imported an image, you got directly the URL and now you're getting it through source. When we added SVG support, it no longer returns an URL, but it's available in source for SVG2. And for text file, you always get, this is the only one that is true, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, at those image ones. You're right, it does seem to be.
May need to blame that file to see when it was edited, but
Hey, Oliver, I can see Oliver showing up now. Okay, interesting.
so it's the can you blame when you're not connected? Oh, I don't even have.
Oh, because you're not signed in.
No. Let
All
me
right,
check.
someone here who is signed in, is it easy enough for anyone to do a blame and
Oh
figure
no, I
out
can
how
blame.
old that is? Oh, you can. Okay,
What was some text? Other assets.
other assets.
Oh, it's on 3 years ago.
Okay, so
Yeah,
excellent. We
this.
found more docs that need updating.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this was all true before adding support for images. When we added support for images initially, this changed. And when we added SVG
Yeah,
support, the second line changed.
and that changed. Okay, so we are going to want someone to drop a
But
comment
what
in that discussion. Sorry, go ahead, Heidi.
actually, when did we add oh, this pull request added the SRC? What was the pull request? Was there an issue? Yeah, this was related to image metadata, so I'm guessing image support was around this time. I wonder when image support was added in Astro.
Well, let's see. If it's the image, so and do you remember we had the image integration?
Yeah,
So it was first a package, and then it became the built-in. Oh, Oliver, I think it's way before V4. Like I don't know if
but they mentioned in
it was a major.
they mentioned in the issue the other section we were talking about, the image in Astro file. So I guess
Yeah.
this makes sense, and I think we are correct. We may need to double check when making changes, but I think this was originally what we got, and this changed at some point, and this changed recently.
Yeah, because assets was V3. I think thanks for finding that, Lou. Oh yeah, because they should have the added in because we were very diligent. Armand was very diligent and went back through all of our older features to make sure that our component there to show when it was added in. So if that was added in V3, that means that in V2 we actually had an image integration which worked differently from the assets feature when we had the image and picture
Yeah.
um, component. Actually, yeah. So what you used to have to do, we would have to find exactly when that was added, which version of Astro. I think it was in Astro V2 sometime. You would have to first install the integration, and then you had access to the image and picture components. And those image and picture components work differently from the image and picture components we have now.
Yeah, and we can confirm that with the Vite website. Before we added image support, this was handled by Vite, and we can see that
Right.
when you import an image, the image is
You
the
get the
URL. You
URL,
don't
yeah.
use .src. So basically, this was updated. The comment was not, and
Right.
this was never updated, and it should be updated. Both the comment and the. And we should add an example here too for SVG.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
we have some message from Lou.
So what's Lou saying? This makes the example wrong, and we're missing a link to this, which is a helpful place once it's correct, once it's updated. SVG components section explaining that you can get the URL to that process resource by using that. Okay, so we've got our GitHub discussion here going on, the 12012. Can someone drop a comment in there, leaving a link to this other assets section on the imports reference so that we don't forget that this needs to be updated for freshness.
Yeah, and I
It's,
think we should probably keep the 3 imports and have an example like we have here for the image and a second one for the SVG.
okay.
So it's very obvious image and SVG are now working the same. Instead of saying
Yeah.
image or SVG, maybe two example may be better in this
Yeah.
case.
Okay.
And
So the need, yep.
I also wonder, because we mentioned here the URL suffix from Vite.
Mhm.
Maybe Louise, hello Louise, by the way, you may know that if you use the URL suffix on an SVG now, I'm guessing, of course, you're getting a URL, but I'm guessing it's keeping any processing that Astro may be doing. What happened in this case?
Yeah, that was a weird thing they found out. I suggested using the URL thing as well because I was familiar with that. And they said it returns the SVG as a data URL.
Yes, because it's using Vite, and the Vite inline SVG by default it's assets inline limit. It's 4 kilobyte, I think, by default. It may be. Let me find it. Assets inline limit. Oh yes, it's this one, I think. Assets
Yeah,
inline
4
limit.
kilobytes.
Okay, it just goes through Vit's default thing. So yes, it's in line because I guess the SVG was less than 4 kilobyte. But there is a Vit thing where you can use no inline, maybe URL and no inline. But at this point, you escape Astro entirely, so just documenting .src is the proper thing to do, I guess.
All right. All kinds of goodies with this one.
Yeah. But yeah,
So,
3 years old documentation.
yeah. And this, so this is exactly what we were talking about while we were trying to get the whole set up in the beginning, is that sometimes when a feature changes, it can have impacts throughout docs that you're not expecting or that you miss. Okay. So yes, we do need to make sure that this discussion here also then includes that we've got some outdated related content on this other assets page. And as Lou said, linkage is always good. So that could be something like on the images pages itself, making sure that where we talk about, we have tons of JPEG examples. If SVGs are going to work exactly the same way, then we could mix and match. We could show an SVG up in there. Also, if we only have one section on that page dedicated to SVGs, then somewhere in that SVG component page, there should be a link taking people, whether it's to that other asset section or whether it's to a rewritten section on the images page that says, hey, when you just import an SVG, you'll get this object with some properties on it. You don't have to use it as a component. And so for the cases where you're not using it, you're not creating this component itself, something like this. Lou is asking in the Discord chat about comments. Yes, throw that in as a comment. Um, yep, I think that covers what we've been discussing here. Thank you. I see the comments show up now. Okay, so we know we've got some work to do on this page. We think we have a good strategy for handling it. So again, before this becomes an issue, it would be great if we knew, okay, so we need some content to change here, we need something updated here, because this, as convoluted as all this is, by the time it turns into a docs issue, I see no reason why this couldn't be a good first issue. I see no reason why our discussion couldn't have enough context in it that we can then write an issue that says, hey, we need someone to go to this section and update this, and then in this section, put a link to it, right? And to me, that's a perfectly fine, good first issue. And at the very least, it's a totally fine help wanted issue. So we also, in addition to using a good first issue tag, we use a help wanted tag so that so that people know this is something that anyone can do. This isn't something that we have decided to tackle ourselves because maybe it needs some particular nuance, or we know exactly, we have a plan for what we want to do with it. Maybe it's a bit more complicated with moving parts. If it says help wanted, that means anyone can look at that issue and make a PR to solve it. And to me, this seems like something anyone should be able to do as long as we do our job and we perfectly annotate how we would like this fixed. So I think that's great. I think this was well spotted. So someone came in with a support question, figured out what the issue was, then reported via a discussion to docs that we don't show how to do that. And now our discussion here means, oh, and we actually realized that there's some related documentation in another section that never got updated as feature develops. So then that's what we do with these discussions is we're like, okay, good. Now we've identified the extent of this problem. We have a plan for tackling it. And then that means that anyone, maybe the person who started the discussion in the first place wants to contribute. Maybe someone else does. Yeah, this is a great process. And this is exactly what these calls are for. Okay, so yes, I feel like now we have a good handle on what's needed, and we can probably turn this into an issue with very specific guidance about what
Yeah.
needs to happen.
I also wonder why GSX was used in this example.
Well, if it was 3 years ago, if it was a very, very old version of Docs, yeah, I think a lot of our original docs were written with a very JSX bent. I mean, if you
Ah, I see.
look at the Astro templating language, it is, I mean, while it is a superset of HTML, I don't know if we still say in docs, but at one point, the super original docs were like, if you're not sure how to do it in Astro, look up how you would do it in JSX. We literally had that in the original version of docs. And with the prevalence of React and so many people being familiar with React and JSX, that felt, I guess, those docs predate me, but that was sort of our understanding that it would be easy for people to frame things in terms of JSX. And so that comment was written 4 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. So that it's also like this wonderfully complicated thing that older docs, when a project is new, the point of docs is you are also trying to explain something to people they may have no frame of reference for, they've never heard of. And so much of older docs did a little bit of, marketing stuff as well, because this is where you could, let people know what was happening. And yeah, I don't think we're in a position where we necessarily need to be relying on JSX as much, even though it's, yeah, if people do have wonder how to do things, JSX, trying it like you do it in JSX is not necessarily a bad way to start. But yes, our older docs were certainly heavily geared that way, because most people who were trying out Astro would probably have been coming with that frame of reference. Yes, okay. Good. So anyone who's watching, anyone who's on the call, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're in the GitHub chat, do feel free to jump into this discussion and leave any comments, anything you're afraid from this discussion might not have got captured about how to solve this, about anything, updating the code samples. Feel free to pop in the discussion. Lou has left a comment there so that we'll mostly forget the main things. Mostly won't forget the main things, sorry. And then Team Docs can turn this into an issue that provides guidance for someone so they can move ahead with it. I did notice Oliver join, and okay, thanks, Lou. Perfect. This was one I wanted to bring up today. So it was great you were here for the beginning and that you suggested this one to go over together. Perfect. And laptop battery running out of power now is also fortuitous, because I did want to move on to an existing Docs PR that Oliver has submitted. So let me call that up and give Heidi-O the link so that we can put it up here. So we are looking at Docs PR 12091. I will drop that in the chat here, and I'll drop it in the chat on YouTube. And if YouTube open on the laptop, so I just have to hop over here quickly. And get this so that I can put this one in the chat in YouTube. Okay. So Oliver's here. Oliver had started a discussion on reworking our client-side scripts page. Oh, Oliver dropped that. Oh, the deploy preview. Excellent. Perfect. So yes, Oliver wrote a very comprehensive analysis of that page and a bunch of suggestions for how we would change it in that linked 11165 there. Yeah, so Oliver had lots of suggestions. I don't believe he's able to speak right now. If you can, just raise your hand, Oliver. Otherwise, we'll go through it together. I have had a chance to go over this PR and just leave some high level comments. Yeah, no worries, Oliver. I didn't think you were able to anyway. So I have left some high level comments on the changes here. Maybe Heidi-O, the easiest thing to do is go into the files changed view so we can look at some of the suggestions here. And I know because Heidi is sharing his screen and it's in a particular proportion. When I see Heidi sharing his screen here this way on the Discord, it always seems to me at the screen width of what I would consider tablet view. So it always feels a little disconcerting that when, for example, Heidi shows the docs, and I don't see my table of contents on this page in the right hand column, just because I'm so used to navigating a page that way. I feel lost if I can't see a table of contents in a page. And so now I'm looking at the diff view here and I'm like, oh, right, this is tablet view diff. They're not side by side. And it just looks different.
I think it may just be. Oh no, it's not Zoom. It's default GitHub.
Oh, because my default is like the two are always side by side, where the oh yeah, split. Oh, maybe you just have a different choice, right?
No, I mean
I thought maybe
incognito window, so it's GitHub default.
yes, I was used to seeing split versus this mode versus the other. Um, right. So Oliver, if there's anything you said it once and it saves to your account. Okay. Oh, hi Emma, and Emma has joined us as well. Oliver, if there's anything you want to drop in chat as we go along that you want to focus on with this PR, feel free, and I will read the stuff out in chat. In general, uh, just like we looked at that imports asset page, that we were finding stuff that was written, 3 years ago that hadn't been updated. And we know Astro releases pretty frequently, so there have been some changes. Some of that content was out of date. The client-side script page, I think, is similarly one of our slightly older pages because this is in part how Astro has mostly worked since the beginning. And as we add new features, not a lot changes over how our scripts work. Now, with that being said, in Astro 5, we did have a direct render scripts experimental flag that became the new default. So that is one of the reasons that this page needed a bit of an update. It did tend to refer to how scripts have always worked. But we will find that in docs that some pages, like for example, our markdown page, probably not going to get updated very frequently because these are core features that have existed in Astro for so long that they don't tend to go through major updates. So just reading a comment from Oliver here, the only thing I really care about for this PR is updating how the scripts work. The rest was just since I'm here. Okay, so if we just start looking through some of the defaults, some of the differences here going through the PR, yes, I can see that one line that Oliver did add was right up front to make it super clear that by default, Astro processes and bundles script tags with TypeScript support, NPM module imports, and automatic optimization. I think that's a fabulous improvement. So worth noting, you can see that there have been some sort of resolved conversations and everything in here. Oliver did a great job trying to align this page with some of our newer doc strategies. After a few years, we sort of develop a style and some typical characteristics of our docs. One thing we do say is, especially with how much more we have to document now, that Astro Docs should document how Astro works. It's not our job to teach you how JavaScript works, how CSS works. We've seen over the last few talking and dockings where we've ended up in like massive tailwind spins, that it can be difficult because it's not our job to document how to use Tailwind in Astro, but how to connect it, right? How to configure it. But once you're using Tailwind, that's Tailwind's job. So in this page where we're talking about client-side scripts, there's going to be some, some overlap between just how scripts work in HTML. And we really do want to stick to this is what Astro does with scripts that is maybe unintuitive or that you need to know. Maybe this is how it differs from just having a script tag in HTML. So Oliver went through and did a fairly good job stripping. Some of this, I think, even explained some HTML in a fair bit of detail that we decided is not our job to teach. But yes, certainly making sure that we know, certainly making sure we know about the bundling when it does or doesn't happen, that you can import NPM modules, that the script tags, you can write TypeScript, all this kind of stuff. Okay. So I'm trying to think if there's anything. So I did a first pass with some of this, and I'm trying to see if there's anything that we sort of still have unresolved here. Around lines 41, 42, Oliver made a really nice bulleted list, which does fit with our style, which is helpful. Oh, and yeah, so line 47, this unprocessed scripts. So Oliver and I had a discussion about this. There was in the original on line 75, there was a section that was opting out of script processing. And it was an interesting conversation we had because now that we're actually looking at this page closely again, I was wondering, I asked Oliver, I'm like, when people are going through this page, are they thinking, how can I opt out of this script processing? Or is it more common that people are like, wait a minute, my script didn't work the way I thought it would. Why did it not get bundled? Or why did it end up working in this particular way? So one change to this page that we made was to change a heading for opting out of script behavior, which then included a note, like an aside about things, and instead have a section that is like, okay, unprocessed scripts, and then describe it. Yes, there was a resolved conversation right around line 40-ish, right in there where we talked about that. So one thing that I'm always happy to do in Docs is if we can take something that was originally a note or some kind of aside and instead turn it into a section, because the note that we originally had was basically a note about how Astro works. And how Astro works is just regular stuff that we document. And especially if it's something that we ever want to reference people to, having this as an anchor link that we can direct people to is way more helpful than a note somewhere. So I was really happy to do a change like that. We've got a new section on, oh, yes, we've got that new section. I'm just scrolling in here on externalization. Okay, one conversation that I think we still have up in the air is the one about where there's some repetition with what happens in the CSS styling. Let me get to that. I'm going to go to a view that's just a little easier for me to check here. I know some of our conversations are resolved, some are not. Okay, so around line 77 to 80, around line 77 to 80. So we've got, in fact, we were looking at this just before with the other discussion about the assets inline limit and that reference point. So we hadn't previously documented about scripts being linked externally or inlined based on that size limit. We had documented that in the CSS styling page. So here's a section where Oliver copied the text from the CSS and styling because it works exactly the same way. It just works for both styles and scripts. That if you set your limit on one, then it's going to affect both your stylings and scripts. So Oliver copied the exact paragraph that we had over from the styling page, put it in the scripts page because it's relevant here too. This led us to wonder, well, if we're trying to copy the exact same content about when things will be inline versus made into external files, that kind of thing. Should there be somewhere separate where we describe this? And then both of these pages can link to it. And yes, we also, as Oliver's saying in the chat, the heading here, externalization, we didn't know what a great section name for that would be. So I've done a bunch of talking here. If anyone's had a chance to go through and look at some of the proposed updates here, I can see Oliver's already left a little comment here in preparation for talking for discussing here in the call. Does anyone else have anything they want to discuss here? So this externalization section is a newly converted section from a note describing what happens. It's also duplicated content from the styling page. So this leads us to wonder, is this the way we should be handling it? We're on the client side scripts page and we're looking at, we have an example here of a Vite config option described. And so to me, that's like, this is maybe saying that this isn't the right place to be showing a Vite config when people are wondering about scripts, that there's probably somewhere better this content can go than we can link to. Does anyone have anything they want to share about this? Because I've been talking an awful lot here.
Yeah. I was thinking first, but it's not really very important. I wonder if we should change these two sentences to avoid very close repetition, maybe. But it's tiny details.
Yep.
Then I was wondering. Where was it? Yeah, in the unprocessed script section. I know you mentioned we should not teach HTML, JavaScript, CSS, that kind of thing. But I still wonder if it could be helpful here to, just like, for example, when we say, where was it? It was in the import page we were looking at earlier. What was it? What was that page? Import.
Reference, import, yeah, reference page, and then it was import reference.
Yes.
And then it was other assets.
Here we are talking about import and how to deal with import, but we just have a very helpful note which say, oh, you should add an alternate text for accessibility. In that spirit, I wonder if for unprocessed script we should not at least suggest one use case why one may want to use unprocessed script.
Okay.
Because right now, let's imagine I have no idea what this is about. I would be like, okay, Astro does all this amazing thing when it's processing scripts.
Mm-hmm.
I can opt out, but why?
Yeah, I'm checking to see.
Oh,
Yes,
but maybe
this was
actually it may just be. Oh, actually it's because maybe I'm viewing the diffs and there is an example. Oh, there is an example.
Okay.
So, okay, but I think it could be improved because it's it's an example commenting what the result will be, but it's not really
why.
saying why
Not
would you want to do that.
Yeah.
And there are many very important use cases for unprocessed script, so I think just giving one in this comment could be helpful.
Yeah, In fact, I would, okay,
EasyLine is also demonstrated somewhat with the load external
the
script.
load external scripts. Okay.
Let me try to find it. Oh, this one. Yeah, but it's not saying why my script should be. What is my script? Why should it be?
Yeah, that's true. That doesn't also
I
seem
think
to
we
have
could
a,
say, just give a small example. Just for example, avoiding flash of content of unstyled content for dark mode preferences, or flash of invalid content when you're restoring tabs. So, for example, let me find, if we go to a page with a tab here, probably. Yeah, if we go here, we save pnpm to local storage. And the script, when you load the page, selecting pnpm is inlined, because we want to select pnpm as soon as possible, as early possible, when the script is encountered. So this is inlined. Otherwise, you will get npm first, and when the module is loaded and the code executed, it will switch to pnpm. So,
right.
so there are definitely very good reasons to use unprocessed script. Giving maybe one of them, I think, would be interesting.
Yes, and we can decide whether mentioning a use case. So my first thought would be in the so there's two thoughts going through my head right now. The first is I would think of mentioning a small list of use cases in paragraph text. And the nice thing about the code snippet as it is if people are scanning, then what they are seeing in that code snippet is exactly how it works. And people who are scanning at that level probably don't need the use case in a code comment as much as they need how it works, right? The people who
Yeah.
don't know how it works are going to read the paragraph text. So I think up in the paragraph leading into it, where it just says Astro will not process your script tags if blah 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 blah, that could be prefaced. That could either be somewhere in that paragraph, either before or after. I think that's where mentioning use cases can be helpful. This would be a case where if there were a recipe we wanted to link to, I think the canonical light dark toggle recipe is on Astro Tips, not in Astro Docs. But yeah, I think what I like about these code snippets is that for the people who are just scanning, going, oh, is inline means it's going to do this. I think that serves that audience, and the people who need to read stuff to learn or to figure stuff out, they will be in the paragraph text. And I think it's okay to put use cases in there. That's my first thought. And I did have a second thought. What was my second thought? Yes, my second thought was, so again, we were wondering about the section heading title, right? Is it, if there are cases where it's like, what's the framing of this paragraph? Is this framing to be like, hey, what if you don't want to bundle it? Assuming that people already know what the processing does and why or when they might not want it? Or is this more like, hey, warning, even though we've just spent all this time telling you about all this great stuff Astro does when they bundle scripts, not all scripts are going to be bundled. the framing of that, I think, will dictate what section heading, what words we want to use for the section heading, right? Whether it's, hey, how to opt out of this versus, hey, not all of them end up being processed. Because I'm not sure, this is where we don't have Lou from support in here, but we do have Oliver, who's very active in our support threads. I'm not sure whether more of the confusion comes from people not understanding how the scripts work, and they come in not knowing why their script is doing X, Y, or Z, or not doing X, Y, or Z, or whether people are coming in going, hey, how do I get rid of this bundling? Like, how do I not bundle? And I think knowing what people's use case for this information is helps us decide what a good section title is, and what we would call it, and therefore what link we give people to do something about this. So Oliver's got a comment in chat saying, by inlined, I mean direct rendered. If you need a script that's more than 4 kilobytes inlined, that's a use case. The most common use case for inline previously was to inline, but now that scripts are all inlined by default, except for when they're too big, now the main use case for this section, I think, is resolving confusion about their script not being processed by accidentally adding attributes to their script. That was kind of that when I gave my comment in the PR to Oliver, that was sort of my intuitive sense of what I tended to see around people asking questions in Discord, is that yes, that accidentally their scripts weren't being processed, which is why I thought maybe a section heading more like unprocessed scripts versus how do I not process these scripts might be helpful. So that was kind of my gut perspective as to what happened there. But certainly, I think to Heidio's point, talking about why it could be useful, why you might want to do this. But yeah, from a documentation standpoint, I really felt like our main goal is to alleviate confusion. Like, we've just talked all about all this cool bundling we do. Then why isn't it happening in my project? Yeah, so I think those are my comments here. That I think the thing we want to be able to point people to is if they are, for example, scanning the table of contents. I think we want to make it clear for them where to go if they find their script isn't being bundled and processed the way they thought. I think that's the most important thing. And yeah, then maybe we just add a use, we add in text some use cases here about when this might actually be desirable and when you might actually want to do this yourself.
Yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah, so yeah, you got more, Heidi?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. All right,
I
let's go.
wonder, is it what about this second sentence? Local imports are not resolved and will not work. Is it obvious what's local imports?
Is it obvious?
Because
Yeah.
if we check, I think what we say in the is inline reference is a bit more clear. We say relative, so dot slash something, or npm package imports are not supported. I think it may be a bit more obvious.
Okay, so this other thing then, if we have two places where the same content is, then we want to make sure that they both say the same, like they both match with each other, and B, that we've got enough linking between the two that people can see both. It's not absolutely required that content never be duplicated in docs. That we may want to structure code that way, but it's actually not super important that content isn't duplicated in docs because people are learning. People might need to see things a few different times in a few different ways. So it's not that we don't need that example there in the scripts page, but if we have more comprehensive and helpful information in that reference page, we should probably link to it, link to the template directive page. And so then that helps us, like if that didn't happen to be particularly clear, if we had one of our little read more links directly underneath that, which is learn more about the is inline template directive, and then takes us there, then as long as it's full and well written over there, it's almost even okay if it's just condensed here enough to like give a hint, but then takes people to somewhere where it's really written. What's Oliver saying? Oh, Oliver's saying we did have that link there, but I removed it thinking we didn't want people to be pushed there because it also shows them defined bars, which is cursive for scripts. I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, yeah, I think having a link to the reference makes sense. Usually our MO is on these guide pages. We just want people to see and have an idea of usage, and then a link to the reference where they can look up and see things they specifically might need. So that also tells us if we go back to that reference page, should it be the opposite? Right? Are we saying too much on the reference page? And are we saying on the reference page, what should maybe be said in the guide page? We can also check both ways, but it absolutely does make sense that we have a link somewhere. Oh, do we have it in that text paragraph right above? I see something linked there, is in line. Does that go where we think it goes? Currently it's linked in the paragraph. Oh, you just took out the attention grabbing. Okay. And if you click to the is in line directive to take us to the reference page there, does that, so the other question then is, where is it more helpful to have this content? Is this reference content or is this guide content? So that's something we could also consider as well. Oh, but is in line works for both scripts and styles. So here it really does have to describe both of them. Okay. Yeah, no, this is probably fine. But Oliver's concern was people reading down and seeing about defined vars, which we're gonna have a whole week without Tailwind, but then defined vars shows its head. Okay. Oh, hey, Chris. Chris is here now.
Hey.
I'm not sure if you're aware that we are looking at Oliver's PR 12091 for client-side scripts. I'll just drop that in case I'll drop it again so it's more recent. Okay, so Heidio's latest concern was if we look at that little code sample, are all of these things intuitive? Local imports are not resolved and will not work. Do we feel the need to be more specific there? Because certainly this is a pattern. This is something that was started even long before I got here. That's very much a Fred. That's a Fred thing, that all these early code snippets go this way, is that they are super short, code commented to describe what's working in here. if the comment we have in the reference is relative and npm package imports are not supported, okay, then go back and compare that to what we've got. Local imports are not resolved and will not work. Okay, yes, I can agree. I don't think we need to say will not work, not resolved and will not work. I mean, we can have just a not supported, and that gives us a little more wiggle room here to make that a bit more explicit. Yeah, so Oliver, I'll leave this as a task for you as well, if you'd like to consider that line, whether that needs some updating. I can see some people typing in chat. Everyone, don't be afraid to leave comments on the PR as well. Leave some suggestions based on this. Video, you got more? More for us to look at?
Yeah, I was a bit unsure about this title. I had to read the content to understand the title, where I think the title should be a hint on what the section is. Or maybe it's just me not being used to that word, maybe, but I've never used that word in that context.
Yeah, and I think when I was reading, when I was first reviewing the PR, I was doing web searches trying to figure out what phrase was commonly used here. Yeah, no, neither Oliver nor I liked the heading. We were trying to figure out what words were used to describe what's happening. Okay, so yes,
Maybe
and again,
even... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, again, this is the section where we end up showing a Vite config in the client-side scripts page, which was our clue that maybe this content actually doesn't belong on this page and is something that can be linked to. So as Oliver says in the chat, what we're trying to describe here is when a script is direct rendered, it's either inlined or made into an external file. So based on like whatever, if it's 4 kilobytes or whatever you've got set, something like that.
Yeah, so I was about to say that even just having external files, I think would be better than externalize this title.
Yes, so even just external.
It's not great, it's not
and
very good, but
no,
I
no.
think it's just at least a bit better, and then we can explain this is what's happening here.
Yeah, because it's not even like
Yep.
external script files, because we have that somewhere else on the page, right? About how to reference them. What if your script files live in another file, right? Because it's not even about that. So as Chris says, Chris in the chat is suggesting bundling, and in the PR review, that's where I'd said to Oliver, I'm like, does this mean maybe we need a section somewhere just more generically on bundling? Because the other issue with this section is whatever you set here will also affect your CSS styles. So Oliver's saying it's important because it hugely affects the behavior of the scripts, which is why he added this section on this page. And then we have Chris saying it might be helpful to not even think of the technical details on this page. This is a guide, and we should be thinking in terms of use case, user goals. Ayuni saying, I'd just document what we configure for Vite and send to Vite docs on that. It's way too deep of a hole. Do we have no, this is a Vite config option. So we don't actually document this because this is a Vite config. Because in your Astro config, you can set things for Vite as well. Okay, so that's what we're finding here is that while this technical detail affects the behavior of scripts, it also affects the behavior of your styles. It is something that is a behavior of Vite and configurable through Vite. So there's all kinds of like, should this content even be on this page here? Is the you know, like even though as we're trying to use words to describe it, we're having trouble finding the right word because it even conflicts with the something we already have on this page about what if your scripts are in external files or something like that.
Yeah, and that's
Is
why I
this
think I may be wrong, but is bundling even correct? Because if I have, for example, two scripts in the same component, could Vite bundle them in one script, but still inline it? So in this case, it would be bundled because multiple scripts are bundled together, are combined together, but they are still in line based on that asset inline limit. So I wonder if that's possible. I guess bundling is not the correct title here. If the goal was to emphasize the difference between inline and using an external file.
Oliver is saying when you have two scripts on the same page that are more than 4 kilobytes, they will be bundled together.
And if I have two scripts that are less than 4 kilobytes, they are in line. The
Are
two
they just
scripts are in
each in
line
line?
individually.
Oliver's saying they will be inlined directly where they are. And
Yeah,
Chris is asking the great
I have no
question.
idea to
What
answer
are the
Chris'
user
question.
goals here? What are we guiding someone towards? Yes, because just like we talked about with that earlier section with unprocessed scripts, right? Mostly a guide page is to avoid confusion. Like it's something people can look up as a reference for how it works, for what is happening. And as Oliver mentioned, in support threads, we mostly seem to see people wondering why they have accidentally done something so that their script is not processed, as opposed to people looking for how to avoid having the script being processed. I think it's probably too easy to avoid Astro's bundling and processing, and people are doing it by mistake and unintentionally. And so then the material in docs can help you figure out when are these scripts not processed. So the same use case has to be thought of here. So Oliver, are people coming into support, for example? If they do, what's the problem they're having, and what are they trying to learn from this page in docs? Rayuni's saying, I think, but would have to check, that Vite never removes the number of scripts in the page because your logic might need reference to those, but they might become two scripts with a single import.
Yes, that was
Oliver is saying,
specifically
yeah,
regarding my question. That was very helpful.
and Oliver is saying, we say at least that we do that and give the example of using multiple of the same Astro components. Okay, so that was that, finishing up the conversation with Rayuni. So yes, I think to Chris's end here is what information do people need to get from the docs, and what are they experiencing when they need this information?
Yeah, and we also have other information, like for example, this sentence that say this option affects style sheet on the image inlining, and we just discovered, I think it was 1 or 2 days ago, that for images it's not technically correct. It's only
Well, I think Oliver left a comment on the PR
oh,
that yes, it's
it's only images for the
something about
CSS.
the
Let me.
yeah, you might not be able to see because of a bunch of resolved. You might have to unresolve a bunch um, of comments there to see Oliver and I's back and forth
Yeah, let me go back.
through a lot of this. Okay, so while Heidi was looking at that, Oliver's saying two problems are client router changed significantly as a result of scripts being externalized and when they accidentally add attributes to scripts. Okay, yes, and I feel like that's sort of covered by our people are now inadvertently um, uh, experiencing behavior with scripts that they don't know how to account for. So it's easy to add attributes to scripts and make them not processed. But and the problem is often people doing this unintentionally versus people needing to know explicitly how to do it so they can get that behavior. Um, right, and so people are typing to add commentary here. Certainly, if anyone wants to hop in and chat, so that I don't necessarily have to read all the comments out loud, and people can hear different voices, that's super helpful too. Otherwise, I'm watching people type. If we make it that far. So yes, but certainly a great call out with that section that we're all sort of having trouble with um, is that what are we what do we think the user, the reader needs at this point in docs, and how are we phrasing it in a way that they will find it? So as Heidio says, well, I don't even know what that section heading means, so how will I know that that's the place I'm supposed to read? Um, versus the content there being something that now is a couple of levels outside of maybe the other content of this page. It's now we're in a config and we're in Vite, and oh, and whatever you do here is going to affect your style sheet as well. That kind of stuff feels like it doesn't naturally fit here. And but that maybe there's helpful content we need to make sure people can access and and point them to, even if it's not to be on this page. Okay, so Chris has now just left a huge comment in chat here. Basically, potential goals when thinking about script, potential goals when inlining with script is in line. Should there be something more explicit, like we recommend avoiding inline scripts except in circumstances where we list use cases.
Oh, I
And
guess
also I
that.
find document.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry?
I was about to say it's. I think we discussed that idea to have. Let me find the. Yeah, adding use cases here.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yes, that was
maybe
something I think.
maybe it should also be emphasized with something you should opt in when you are sure you need it, something like that.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. So Chris's comment definitely refers to that section we discussed there, where showing when this might be possible or necessary or desired. Chris saying, I also find documenting externalization odd because it's the default. We should document it as the default and then warn against disabling that. And Oliver saying, inlining is the default was my thinking, but I guess most scripts are above 4 kilobytes. So I guess I guess that's oh, and we've got Frayuni. Frayuni, would you like to chat?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, thanks for joining.
Great, it's working. Nice. Uh, so, I don't think we need to document too much about the distinction of when things are inline versus externalized regarding the behavior, because V guarantees that it only inlines when it will have the same behavior for scripts. So if they will be loaded in the same place. The scripts are already async, so it might change the order they execute, but that was never a guarantee anyway. But when they're not in line, is whatever results first in your network request. So there's no guarantee there. Um, so I don't think for scripts that is really that relevant. You only touch that configuration if you really have something like CSP where you can't have inline scripts, then you have to turn that to 0. Or if you have too many requests for whatever reason and you want to inline a bit more, but it's very deep optimization or very specific use cases, and it's essentially just the normal Vite behavior. I don't think we need to say too much about that. If we have the same externalization section on the styles page, there it makes a difference. So
And I believe we do. I believe the styling page, because that was one of the PR comments, that section there that said, oh, this affects your styles too. I was saying, well, we should link back there. And yeah, because I think we do mention it there. And then I was going to say, well, and if we have this section over here, then we should probably have the similar caveat that if you're setting this for your styles, it's going to affect your scripts, and we should probably link to the script one, which is what made us consider, like, should this content really be here? Should this be somewhere else? Yes, we have this bundle control
Yeah.
section in styling. Hey, Matthew. Yeah, so what Oliver had done was taken from here and add it to the script page. So Frayuni, you're saying here it is more important?
but yeah, for styles that might change because that would change the order where the styles appear on the page, and therefore it would change the priority. Um, so for CSS, that affects the final result if something is in line or not. For scripts, not really.
Okay, and I don't think, do we have in this section, Heidi, I'm just looking like where you are right now. Do we make notion that this will affect scripts?
Yeah.
Yes, we do, right? We say,
Yeah.
note that this option affects scripts and image inlining as well.
And image line also shouldn't have any difference because
And then we also had this discussion about whether or not the image inlining is actually affected. Okay, so in chat, Oliver is sharing reproduction. And yeah, image inlining is only for CSS files. So I do wonder, because we did have someone with a question about that as well, whether that note up there that Hadios got highlighted, that sentence should mention image inlining for CSS files, but that is also a separate thing. Okay, so lots of conversation here. Even trying to figure out exactly what the effect is, when it matters. So again, in this pull request 12091, around line 57, this whole externalization section, if you have your comments here, again, thinking about some of the things we say in docs, like not everything that is true belongs in docs. So when is it important for someone to know this? When would they need to set this? So there's always a couple of things, like this is a thing that is, if this is a thing that is true, we can have a section about it. If it's something that we don't want people to mess with too much, or that they really shouldn't touch except in a few situations, do we present it that way? If this is not something that if this is a Veet thing more than an Astro thing, is it possible that the most helpful thing is just to point someone to Veet docs if they need something like this, so that we don't have to sit here and figure out all the specific nuances, and yet there's a resource pointing them at the source where Veet is responsible for documenting how to do stuff like this. I think the one message that Oliver is reporting to do with the client router, though. Yeah, yeah, and I'm not here saying that Oliver is like fighting to have this in or anything like that. Like, it's always better to just add more stuff in, and then we look at it and we decide, does this need to be here? Does this need to be here in this way? I do think it's a very reasonable concern that scripts changed a little bit in Astro 5 with the deferred rendered script, and B, using the client router has appeared to cause some issues with script behavior, or not issues, but just differences with script behavior. And I think some of that is what support people end up seeing, and we want to make sure that the docs are helpful in those situations, and that support patrol has something clear in docs that they can drop a link to. So from a docs perspective, it's okay, what kind of information do people need? When do they need it? What are they thinking of when they need it? And can we drop a link, right? If it's a question, is there something that we're going to be able to send to them? So yes, anyone with comments on anything in this PR here? Do we, maybe Heidi's in a good position there, do we mention the client router on this page at all? Because I am not entirely sure we do.
Once here.
And okay, so yes, external scripts with type module are automatically deferred by the browser and handled differently by Astro's client router. See the view transitions guide for more information. Okay, Oliver, is that sufficient for talking about the client router on this page? So this page is obviously about using your script tags and how they work and everything like that. But I do think we see some conflicts or some confusing behavior sometimes in conjunction with the client router. Do you feel that is sufficient on this page in a little subheading called external script behavior to handle maybe some of those confusing questions that come up. Lou is back. Lou apparently has power. Okay, Oliver says that's fine. Okay, cool. So then we will consider client router handled on this page. Welcome back, Lou. You know which PR we're on? We as soon as you left, we switched gears. We are on this Astro Docs PR 12091 for client-side scripts. I did, you have zero clue. I did link it just a bit earlier. Oh, but then there's been so much talking. I'll just copy that again for you. There you go. So we are getting, we are getting close to the end of time here. Oh, Heidi, or Armand already did it. Heidi, I know you had, yeah, I know. Do you have even more going through this page that you want us to be able to like just talk about? And then anyone who's on this call, please do go in and leave comments on the PR after that. Was there something else?
I pretty much stopped
Awesome.
reading at that section because this was the one I was because I not even sure we should document that and started thinking about it.
I can tell you from the diffs, the only other the only other place where there's some rework was the section called pass front matter variables to scripts.
I think I saw that.
So this was something else that Oliver did specifically want to update. Pass front matter variables to scripts, and it's really just a couple of the sentences. Yeah, it's just the two introductory paragraphs there. That I think in the original there was a bit more, yeah, there's a bit of language cleaned up compared to the original. So as long as those first two paragraphs sort of check out, then I think we've gone through the entirety of the changes on this page.
I think so. Can check the diff. Wait.
Chris has a comment in the chat as well. Some of this also feels like good material for looking for Astro improvements. Like if the inlining regularly impacts people, we could reconsider defaults. If client router causes issues, how can we improve that, etc. Which is another thing that occasionally does happen, that when it becomes way too difficult or confusing to document something, and maybe that's a clue that either our defaults aren't optimum or something really is confusing to use. If it's confusing to explain, then it's going to be even more confusing to use. So if we have trouble documenting how something works, it's always an option to look at then, well, how does it work and does it have to work this way? And could it work better? Oliver's saying it was sorted by keeping track of inline scripts. I feel bad for highlighting it. It's actually pretty much solved. I'm not sure what the it refers to there. Oh, the client router issues. Okay. Okay, well, if it's pretty much solved, that's good then. That means that a change works. Okay, so yes, this is 12091. Again, anyone is welcome to leave comments here. There's a bunch of resolved comments because I did take one high level pass at this. I didn't really do any particular editing. I didn't do like proofreading, anything like that. And I will, of course, remind everyone of the biggest Docs philosophy, which is not worse than what we had before. So we don't have to solve everything in this PR all at once. I think it is worth talking about the new sections like externalization, something like that. Is adding the new thing helpful? Is it more confusing? If we can't figure out how to explain it very well, um, should it be in there at all? That kind of thing. But obviously, not worse than what we had before should always be our goal because we can always revisit this page. Lots of our docs pages. Who had that? Who had that quote that quoted me where I'm like, I don't think we have any good docs. All of our pages can use improvements. Constant improvement is what we try to do, as long as every little incremental change leaves it in not a worse position than it was in before. So I think as we go through these, it can feel like we are maybe super nitpicking or things like that. And in practice, that's not really what we care about so much as if you put it there and it's green now, it's a chance to talk about it and to see, is this helpful? Is this helpful enough? You know, we could look at some things and think, oh, it'd be really great if we did this. But you know what we've got there is fine. We can always improve it again later in another step. So Frayuni is saying, this sounds like physics class. You have a hard problem? Imagine it was easier and solve that. Then use that solution on the hard problem. Yeah. It's as long as we're not making anything worse, that is our goal. And with that, those were the two things I had wanted to look at. So we looked at the discussion about the SVG images, docs needing updates. And this one that Oliver did amazing work on, not only this PR, but actually put a lot of thought into the discussion that went into this to figure out if this was updated. So that's been great. At this time, I probably wouldn't start anything new. I will just double check that neither Hideo nor Chris has anything they want to bring up at this time. Oh, and I don't know when Kevin joined, but I see Kevin too. Hi, Kevin. As we talked about here, with the first topic, which is a discussion, we like having those discussions so we can formulate them into issues in a way that people can therefore just take them and run with them. So don't hesitate to hop into issues, because there are some things that we make issues for that are actually pretty simple. But if we can get somebody else to do them, if that can be your introduction to contributing to Astro, it's much more useful for us to have a contributor than a contribution much of the time. And so that's a big part of, even what these calls are too, is these script docs could get a little bit better, but if the end result is that more people are interested and invested and in making the docs better, in making support better, in making the link from support to docs better, that is a huge win for us. Okay, so Heidi has dropped a link to the original discussion in case people weren't around at the time. And checking the chat. Well, I don't see Heidi speaking up, and I don't see Chris speaking up, so I'm going to assume that we don't have anything else.
Sorry.
I just asked if anyone whether you or Chris had anything else that you wanted to
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
talk about before we get out of here. This is Silent
No,
Monkey.
nothing specific from me. Nothing that should be specifically dealt with today. So, unless Chris has something, I guess we should be.
Chris is Silent Monkey. We've got Silent Monkey in the chat, so I think we're good. So these were the two topics that I wanted to bring up, that I want to make sure people knew about. Again, and as is entirely obvious as we go through this thing, I am not the subject matter expert in most of these things that happen, which is why I need people here who understand and use these features. Um, what I am pretty good at is wrangling the entire docs as a whole in, helping look at the use cases, what's our style, what's our convention for this. But it's all of you who use Astro, who contribute to Astro. You are the subject matter experts, and the docs lead is, stupid as a service, where it doesn't matter how much I know, if I can wrangle that information out of all of you to put it in the most helpful form and package so we can share it with the community. So Lou's saying, yes, our first 30 minutes. Normally, when we broadcast these out to YouTube and then we just let the live thing sit, I think we have the option of cutting at the beginning or end, and usually we're just like, doesn't matter. This time, I'm going to say we should probably start around the 28-minute mark. We just had so many technical difficulties to get started. So, as Lou said, 30 minutes of technical issues, 20 minutes of a discussion, and then about an hour of a PR. And this is great. And I just like making the process entirely transparent, available for people to know. So if you're wondering, why wasn't my PR reviewed? I submitted it 2 hours ago. Well, this is what this is how long we spend on PRs. Because if we can get it right, we're going to get it right. The more people are involved, the broader the perspective, the more helpful the PR is to more people, because it's written with all of us in mind. This is what we do. Okay. So yes, that is my note to Hideo that, we should probably actually cut this. We had so many technical issues. Let's cut this one early. I never say that, because usually it's just like, are we live? Are we live? Yeah, this one was a bit much. All right, but I have a blog post and a newsletter to get out today. So we are going to stop it here at the 2-hour mark. Thanks everybody for joining, popping in, popping out as you can. Have a great rest of the week. Keep your eye out for the newsletter and blog posts. Happy August Eve. It's about to be birthday month for quite a few of AstroCore. So August is always a fun month for us. And those of you in the know will know where to find the draft PR for the newsletter that will go out today. So if anyone feels like proofreading, I think we're in pretty good shape with that. But I gotta go, because I got a whole newsletter and all this stuff to take care of today. But thanks for joining us, whether you're on in the Discord chat, watching us on YouTube, and we will see you around the Discord. Have a wonderful rest of the week and a great weekend, and happy August. Thanks, everybody.